Hey everybody, what's going on? Just here in the office today working on these Fish of the Moment personal lake map breakdowns. And man, these things are so detailed that once in a while I just got to take a break because my brain gets fried, you know, entering all this information and data. So got to take occasional breaks to sort of keep your mind fresh a little bit. But hey, just wanted to take a couple minutes today and to do today's little not really tip, but sort of thought of the day. I like to sort of break it up between fishing tips and then just talking about fishing in general. And the thing that brought me to today's topic was the fact that I've been seeing a lot of fishing videos lately that come across my social media feeds about these guys swinging in these big bass. I mean, I saw this video the other day. Some dude swung a 10 pounder over the side of the boat, and I'm getting where I see a lot of like Elite Series guys swinging 7 pounders over the boat. And every time they do that, they get on television because it's just such a freak look. And the point of today's video is I want to sort of pose the question and give you my opinion on swinging fish over the boat or reaching down and lipping them in. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys that in my opinion, this trend that you see of guys flipping big bass over the side of the boat is motivated more by ego and testosterone than it is over the most efficient way of landing a bass. Because the reason I say that is that when you try to swing a big bass over the side of the boat, I'm talking about a bass like over 4 or 5 pounds, and even, you know, I see these guys flipping 7 pounders over the side. You are taking a tremendous gamble losing that fish because, number one, in order for that fish to come into the boat when it's that big, you have to have everything right. You have to have that bass hooked just right. You have to have your line and your knot has to have perfect integrity. You have to have the fish come into your boat at the right angle. And if you don't have all those variables, you're going to lose them, because I see a lot of guys trying to swing big ones over the side, and they either break their line or they come off when they try to pull them out of the water because they're simply too heavy. And I really think that a lot of this that you see is motivated from ego. There's something about swinging a big bass over to the side of the boat, and then all of a sudden you see this 6 or 7 pounder flopping on the floor that like it's some type of there's some type of gratification that comes with that is basically doesn't equate to the best way to land the fish. So in my opinion, you have to analyze the situation and you have to put your testosterone and ego into check a little bit based upon the situation. Now, one of the things about fishing, you know, I've landed tens of thousands, I don't know, hundreds of thousands maybe of bass over my lifetime. And, you know, very few of these bass I lose at the boat. You know, I've sort of developed a system to determine whether I should swing or lip based upon some stuff I'll talk about here in a second. If I do lose a bass, most of the time it's because they get caught up in heavy cover, or they jump off, or they pull off fighting out away from the boat. Very seldom I lose them right at the boat. So first of all, let's talk about the times that you should swing a bass. There are times when definitely it's swinging them over is the best way to do it. If you're in a situation where you're like fishing super heavy cover, like you're flipping thick laydowns, you're flipping bushes, that type of stuff, where you have a lot of cover between the bank and the boat, a lot of times it's worth the risk to try to swing a good sized fish into the boat if you have the right setup to keep it from getting back down into that water and getting tangled up. So I've done that with 4 and 5 pound bass quite a bit. But when you're in a situation where, and I just saw this video the other day from the Elite Series, you had some guy had a 7 pounder on. It was open water, perfect situation, and he fights this fish to the boat and he swings it in the boat. Fortunately for him, it came into the boat. But when you have a 7 pounder like that, there's no reason, if that fish isn't going to get caught up on something, there's no reason not to reach down there and lip that fish. You don't know, even if the bait is inside the fish's mouth, you don't know if it's just skin hooked against the roof. You don't know if your line has caught across the mouth of that fish's lip and it's weakened the line. And when you try to swing a big bass like that, you're just taking for granted everything is perfect. It's so much easier to get that, just get down on your, in the low part of the boat, reach over and grab that fish and pull him out of the side. Because, if you don't have that fish hooked right, or you have some lack of integrity in your line, you're still going to get that fish in the boat. This is especially true like if you're fishing treble hook baits. A lot of the times, I've had bass that I can see are barely hooked by one treble. And what I try to do is I get them out by the boat and I try to sort of figure eight a little bit. And 90% of the time or more, I can get another hook in that fish somewhere if I have a treble hook type bait on there. That's one of the techniques that I've always used. But the determination of whether you should swing a bass or lip it has to be made on each individual fish. And I think there's so many people out there that get into this mind that they're just going to flip anything that they catch, they're going to flip it in the boat. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think you're just setting yourself up for failure down the road. Every bass fights differently. One of the things you have to do is you have to be able to develop a sense of how that fish is hooked, analyze what pound test line you're using, and you have to read the direction that fish is going in. If you've got a fish, for example, say even on light line, say you're fishing 8-pound test line and you've got a 2.5-pound bass, and you're fishing a shaky head on 8-pound test line, and you've got a 2.5-pound bass on with a spinning rod, and you got that fish coming to you, and he's coming to you pretty fast. The momentum of that fish will take a lot of that pressure that you normally would have if you lifted just dead weight over the side of the boat, and it can become an efficient way to land a fish. Although again, you're you're just assuming that fish is hooked. You don't know how really good it's hooked inside the mouth. So my judgment is, if there's any doubt in my mind whatsoever, I always just get down there and lip the fish in. I never take the chance. If I'm fighting that fish and in my mind I feel that fish is hooked pretty solid and that my line can withstand it, and that fish is not over 2.5 pounds, then yeah, I will swing it. But unless I'm flipping with heavy line, or like throwing a spinner bait, a single hook bait on heavy line, or a swim bait, something that's got one big hook in it, and 20-pound test and more line, most all the time I reach down there and lip in those fish. I never take the chance. And even if I'm flipping big line, heavy line with a swim bait or whatever, I don't automatically assume I'm going to flip that fish in the boat just because I got a big hook and heavy line. 90% of the time I don't. If I've got the fish in open water and I don't feel that fish is going to wrap up around anything, I just reach down there, grab the line, pull the fish to me, get it in the boat. And it's been super effective for me. I've lost very few fish at the boat with that technique. But the point of, I guess, what I'm talking about in this video is, don't get sucked into this trend that you see in social media and on the tournament trail right now about these guys just jacking these big bass over the side of the boat. I mean, don't get sucked into that, because I'm telling you right now, there's an element of ego and posturing that goes along with that is going to burn you eventually. It's a matter of time. If you got this mentality that you're going to swing everything over the side of the boat, it's just a matter of time before you try to do that and your line snaps in midair, or you get that fish 12 inches out of the water and it comes off. It's going to happen, I promise you. So if you decide to swing a fish like that, make sure that decision is based upon every bit of information that you have in front of you at the time. The whole situation, the cover that's in the water, how green or how wore out that fish is. There's a lot of split second decisions that have to be made, but don't just assume that that's what you're going to do every single time, because every fish is different, every fish moves different, and every fish is going to be hooked different in the mouth. So anyway, just something I wanted to share with you guys out there. I've just noticed that a lot, and I think that it's whatever works for you. I mean, if that's what works for you, then fine. But I'm telling you right now, eventually, people that do that are going to get burned a little bit. So anyway, just a few thoughts for today. Let me know what you guys think, man. Let me know what your experiences are. You know, swinging them over or reaching down and lipping them in the mouth. I'd be curious to hear from everybody out there. So anyway, hope you guys are doing good. Going to get back to maps here again. You know, thanks everybody for subscribing to the channel. You know, like I posted a little bit earlier. You know, up to 15,000 subscribers now and growing. I really appreciate everybody that's helping me out with that, and invite you to do so if you haven't. So we'll talk to you guys later. See you.